Oh, okay. When you think of Santa Barbara, you think about the beaches, the weather, the art, and the architecture. It's a tourist city with an attraction to many people, but they only see one side. They don't see the side where there are so many individuals, families out on the street every day due to unaffordable housing. The housing has a harsh criteria within the application itself and a waiting period of 10 years. The housing system affects college students, families with children, and mentally disabled, including veterans.
According to the website House First, community psychologist practitioner Dr. Timbers began housing in the 1990s in New York. He began this organization to end homelessness for people with mental illnesses and any addiction. This program was targeted to help people who were released from hospitals, jails, in order to have a long-term shelter. As it got more attention, it gave more opportunities for people who needed to join the movement, such as low-income families, college students, and veterans.
First, renters in Santa Barbara don't have adequate legal protection in the ways of tenants' rights. We are not under the Just Cause Eviction Ordinance. And a Just Cause Eviction Ordinance protects tenants from being evicted by landlords, except under specific conditions, for example, a failure to pay rent. And according to Frank Rodriguez, a professional or community organizer with the organization Central Coast Alliance United for Sustainable Economy here in Santa Barbara, states that there are currently 18 cities under the Just Cause Eviction Ordinance. Rodriguez, who is one of the head advocates fighting for tenants' rights, meets with landlords in Santa Barbara and attempts to come to some middle ground. Ivy apartment homes were bought by Ventura Investment Company in Camarillo, and the tenants that lived there were given 60-day eviction notices to vacate the premise. After the renovations, rent was raised, which left families displaced because they could no longer afford rent. Ivy Apartment Homes is an example of why members of the cause organization, like Frank Rodriguez, are trying to get Santa Barbara to practice this Just Cause Eviction Ordinance. Second, affordable housing waitlists are full and there are no new vacancies of units. And according to Rob Fredericks, former CEO and Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara, says as of May 10, 2017, there were a massive 4,500 people on the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara waitlist. The Housing Authority of Santa Barbara's waitlist is leased up, and no new monies to buy housing or provide new vouchers causes applicants to be on waitlists for up to 10 years. In a letter written to the public on May 10, 2017, Fredericks informed the public that the program was underfunded and would be receiving 2.5 less than required to renew utilized vouchers, which eliminated the possibility of opening the waitlist application until February of March of this year. This underfunding is due to Congress not adopting a budget for that fiscal year. Housing Authority of Santa Barbara was required to reduce the program size by 100 vouchers in order to continue as to not affect current households receiving monies from this program. And for the first time in 9 years, the program has begun accepting new applications to hopefully gain a spot on a waitlist. Bob Havlick, current Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara, stated that the funding for section was a bit unexpected. He said the program in the county has been decreasing through the years and was expected to continue.
Alright. So, the lack of housing in Santa Barbara has been an ongoing issue for a while, but is only getting worse. Those affected by this issue are due to experience some sort of homelessness. The three major groups of people that are being affected by this issue are college students, families with children, and veterans, including disabled. With the lack of housing and unaffordable rent continuing to grow, young college students are unable to pay rent and even forced out onto the streets, friends, or to stay in motels. With the lack of housing ability and high cost, it makes it very difficult for these students to maintain their cycle of paying expensive rent on top of a really high tuition. According to a 2015 article from the Santa Barbara Independent, Yamamura found that in a 2013 survey, at least 8% of UCSB students find themselves homeless during their college career. In a similar 2014 survey, Yamamura found that 5% of SBCC students had to leave their home. In the same article from The Independent, Gamamira found that a new long-range plan will bring more than 250 students to UCSB every year through 2025, and the new housing plan along with it will bring 5,000 new beds. The UC and Governor Brown made an agreement to put a freeze on tuition for another 2 years for residents. This will make rent payments much easier on students, causing them to finally have a chance at financial freedom and housing stability. Now, in addition to college students, families, especially with children, are affected by the high cost and lack of housing as well. Imagine being a single parent with children evicted and forced out onto the streets or in a motel. It's not a pretty thought. And what's sad is that this is still happening all the time. With housing going up in price and children to feed, sometimes it's very hard for certain families to make their rent payments on time, even though they're good for it, causing them to have to vacate the premises. Other families are having to deal with other issues, such as the building they live in being bought out by other companies who want to either bump up the price of rent or turn it into something else completely. Consequently, this really affects these families who are forced to leave their home after living there for over 10 to 20 years. In the 2017 article from the KEYT News, Nugent expressed that one family in particular experienced this. Nguyen says that Guadalupe Noyola and her 2 children rented a small 1-bedroom apartment in the IV Apartments on Carrillo Street for 4 years. Noyola received a 60-day eviction notice in October 2016. Property management had taped the same eviction notice to several other apartments, informing them to vacate by January 31st, 2017. This type of situation has happened to a lot of families before and is still currently a huge problem. Now, moving on to the third group of people, mentally disabled people, including veterans. Now, mentally disabled people, including veterans, are actually occasionally at risk of becoming homeless as well. In a 2015 article from the Santa Maria Sun, Minsky stated that there are more than 47,000 homeless people in the whole United States. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Minsky also stated that according to a local study, there are about 208 homeless veterans in Santa Barbara County. The Veterans Affairs Program, VA for short, helps homeless disabled veterans with the necessary tools to help them in their life. In a 2017 article from the Journal of Multidisciplinary Healthcare, Gallardo stated that although the VA offers many supportive programs for disabled veterans, not all of them qualify or are quite eligible for these programs. Some veterans even have limited access to VA programs, making it very hard for them to get the right support that they need in order for them to find an affordable place to live. In a 2015 article from the Santa Maria Sun, Minsky expressed that one Marine Corps veteran, Steve Baird, recalled a situation where a landlord had thanked a homeless veteran for his service, later denying him a place to live. According to Baird, apparently this happens all of the time. And it's really sad. And that's pretty much it.
Due to the lack of housing and the long process of the application, it's going to keep continuing to target the college students, families with children, veterans,